guys, what's going on, and welcome back to the Bradford Save, where I've had a very busy digital summer. Lots of ins, fair few outs, although mostly loans. Just a bit of admin first of all though is, because of the amount of stuff that's on this screen right now, the transfers is just going to be one episode, and I'm going to start in terms of Premier League matches. The first matches will be a 2-match episode next time round. As a result, there will be 4 episodes during this week. We will briefly making a return to the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday setup. So the first 2 matches of the season will be in next episode tomorrow as you're watching this. Hopefully this will go on Monday and I don't mess anything up. So, transfers. On the outgoing front, there was one we already knew about, sort of. I wasn't entirely certain if it was permanent or optional, but Frosinone have taken Adnan Golubovic for £500,000 following his half-a-season loan with them. And then the actual loans for players that have gone out. Because our system doesn't really allow for attacking midfielder, I've essentially just kept allowing Eddie Roberts to go out on loan and develop as a player anyway. There's not really any backup opportunities for AMs to slot in every now and then. So Eddie Roberts has gone out on loan. Miguel Lopez, one of our central defenders, has gone on loan. One of the youth players that played in that role has gone out on loan to Hull. Fairly decent club, actually. Hopefully you get some good game time there. Rui Isidoro, another situation here. AMC, attacking midfielder, gone on loan to Livingston. Kingsley Hodgkinson, left back, loan to Leyton Orient. Razum, left attacking midfielder. Although, one of the options for him offered him attacking midfielder right as part of the loan deal. I don't think it was the Millwall deal. I think he turned down slightly lower leagues to play rotation at Millwall. Simon Carter is another left-back prospect we have. I'm not really sure these guys will ever become first team, but another left-back prospect gone to Port Vale. Rhys Staunton, obviously a player we know, being used pretty much entirely as the homegrown club player on the bench for the most part, occasionally making the team. He's gone to Walsall on loan for first-team football, as has Sergio Luis, one of our youth prospect goalkeepers. He's gone to QPR on loan, which is pretty good, because I believe they are still in the Championship. Yes, they've not been relegated at any point. QPR are still in Championship. So we've got a couple of players in Championship clubs right now. Millwall, QPR, Hull, I believe, are all in the Championship again. I think Hull got re-promoted last season. So all 3 of those in Championship clubs, which is pretty good. Anyway, the inbounds. Now we're just going to start with a couple of disclaimers. The first 4 names on this left-hand side were brought in with the anticipation we would probably still be playing Championship football next season. So it might not look as good as we were hoping. One of those is, actually, in fairness. For the actual summer transfer business, I will probably sum up the strategy as panic, forget, panic a bit more, and mild relief. So I'll start off with Jack Byrne, who, with the updated colours... Oh, by the way, I put a skin on, one of the nicer developed skins on the dark mode variant for it, because there we are. But it gives you a little bit more information on the page. I like the fact it has the comparison thing on the actual original page without having to go any deeper. Yeah, with the updated colours, I've moved the top tier to 15, middle tier to 12, the bottom tier to 10. So you'll be seeing a lot more dark blues and greys, basically. But I acquired him in the January period, thinking he was going to come in then, but he joined at the end of his contract in the summer instead by accident. That was a mistake on my part. He was essentially brought in to replace the outgoing Jim O'Brien in a sort of a decent backup option on the bench for the midfield. He was sold that Jim O'Brien replacement because he was going at the end of the season. His quality just he was getting on a bit, declining in quality, and he wasn't that great to start with. So brought him in. There's still a few 14s in here, reasonable physicals, and 15 dribbling, 13 passing. Like I say, he was brought in as a backup player, also Irish, coincidentally. So essentially very much a younger Jim O'Brien, slightly better replacement. That's why he exists. Now this is the interesting one. Strictly speaking, I bought him last summer. I say bought him. I got him on a free because he was an unattached youngster, but he didn't join until this summer. He's played the entirety of last season in our under 18s, where he was putting in a storming average. I don't think it will actually show you that. Yeah, I mean, you can see he's been with us, strictly speaking, for 3 years at this point, because I brought him in about 3 days before that season ended. But he played... Oh, it does actually show the average rating. He played 25 games, or 28 games for our under-18s and put in an average rating of 7.55. Became professional with us for about 30 days before the new season started, and he's already put in 9 performances in friendlies and things with a 7.21. For a 17-year-old, And again, his natural position is attacking midfielder, but I am going to be trying to develop him in this Mazzala role because, I mean, you look at the important parts here. Passing technique, both 16, work rate 12 ain't bad, off the ball 13 isn't bad. Decisions is the one lacking point there. Acceleration and stamina are pretty decent as well. Stamina is excellent for a 17-year-old. Not the tallest and not the heaviest, so strength and natural fitness and jumping reach aren't amazing. His finishing isn't great, but as a sort of passer, maybe a sort of attacking playmaker, I might change him to something like that. Pretty good, particularly for a 17-year-old. I'm going to try and develop him. I gave him the number 10 for a reason. I think he's got good potential, excellent potential. Now, this was the replacement I sorted for Adnan Globovic during the tail end of last season. I mentioned it in one of the videos that I had already sorted out the replacement for goalkeeper. So he joined at the end of last season with, and when I got this in, I did this fully expecting to be in the championship. Sort of a similar quality to Globovic in total, I think, around the same. 6'8" with a jumping reach of 17. Bear in mind the jumping reach isn't 100% tied into the height. That's height plus jumping reach realistically. Aerial reach 17, unsurprisingly good there. Fairly good quality for the championship, I would say. A top end championship goalkeeper. However, not sure he's quite the quality to start in the Premier League with. He does have potential growth on this, which is worthwhile. And you can see there, cons. Good player for most Sky Bet Championship sides. But it does have potential to grow. So, realistically, I was trying to get him out on loan again during this, because I have got in a fourth goalkeeper, as you can see here. I was realistically trying to get him out on loan and maybe keeping Spencer and Ruiz as the backups. Sadly, that didn't happen. And last one here from the pre-summer transfer dealings is Luis Oliveira. Once again, gone back to our Portuguese haunts to acquire another player. He was actually, this deal was done in January, and this was done in January deliberately for the summer because I had plenty of midfielders at that point. And I thought, might as well wait for the lone midfielders we've got to disappear again before I could bring him in. Again, sort of another backup player, although, strictly speaking, our third best defensive midfielder. That doesn't change, unfortunately. But can play both defensive and midfield. Looked a lot better when 14 was yellow, because there's 14s here, stamina, acceleration, bravery, tackling. So he's very much a more defensively orientated midfielder, which is nice. Essentially, almost Pedro Ferreira 2.0. Same nationality and everything. I say 2.0. Ferreira is one of our better players. And then a bunch of free transfers happen almost off the bat here. Callum Gribbin, a player you may have seen around and actually has developed reasonably well in this simulation so far before he became a free agent this summer. And even with the upgrade in the colours, lots of 15s plus on this player. You know, Callum Gribbin is one of these players you often try to get in. Strictly speaking, he's an attacking midfielder but can play literally everywhere in front of the halfway line. Realistically, we'll probably be using him either as a backup striker, not the best finishing, or on the left wing, or in that Mazzala role again, perhaps, or advanced playmaker Mazzala situation. With 16 dribbling, 15 first touch, 15 technique, passing is 14, vision is 15, agility 15. He's developed really well in this save on the various loans he's had. Decent year with Doncaster last time round. Got him in as a free, got him in as a backup, and you can sort of see current ability-wise kind of there. Says kind of good player for Sky Bet League One size, but I think that rating there kind of portrays the stats a little bit. Not the best heading-wise or anything like that. Not the best physically either, but technically very good player and a backup option. Even at that point, I was treating him as a backup option. Same a little bit with Harrison Reed, although he probably will be playing for us in the first line as front. He's almost like the Norman replacement, but he's just very good mentally. It's very hard to actually read some of these when the sort of the secondary stats go into the ones that are 10 to 12, 10 or 11. But physically, kind of average. Again, kind of looks a little better maybe when 14's the yellow. Actually, there's only one 14, but reasonable on that front. Decent mentals, very good mentally, and he's been brought in as a key player. 14K. By the way, our wage structure has gone a little bit wild. Still kept it reasonably. Like the key players, I kind of basically said don't go any further than 30,000 a week, and sort of backup players around 15, 20 at most. And this is kind of the higher end. Again, it's homegrown, which is nice. English, not amazing. I would probably try and play him as a backup if I could, but he's kind of slotted in the first line at the moment. And then came Grevin Tormin, another free agent. Decent value actually off the bat. can play both sides, which is kind of the main thing here. He's essentially the replacement for now 8th best rated Dalcio. This player here, I'm going to get to shortly, is a very interesting player in terms of you'll see him a lot on these comparison screens for a reason. But 14 dribbling, 30 first touch. Technicals are something still to be designed, something to develop, maybe a little bit of room to grow. Was brought in as rotation option. Mentals are actually reasonably decent for the most part. Again, a couple of 14s, a bunch of 13s and 12s. Physically very good though. 5'9", plays as a winger. Can go both sides, but can actually play pretty much everywhere in that attacking third, which isn't too bad. 23, lots of time to have him around. A backup option. And then sort of came our first foray into left back this season. Left back's a problem. I feel like left back and right back are problem roles in general on Football Manager this year. There just aren't a lot of talent, particularly English homegrown talent in left back and right back. Now we do of course have a couple of youth prospects who have gone out on loan, so they're not appearing on here, but they would probably appear in around this 1-star, 2-star area. So that is the problem there. You can see immediately this kind of spoils other players we brought in, but again, very good physically. Mentally, he's pretty decent. Yeah, I'll run with decent because it's a lot of the 11s. Physically, not that amazing. 14 tackling, 14. He's actually more of a defense. It's actually reasonably decent in both attack and defense side of things. 14 tackling, marking's not the best, but dribbling's 13, crossing's 10. It's all right basically, but very good physically. Very good, probably very good complete wing back actually. Well, say very good. A good complete wing back option for us. Chris Willock was one of the times where I just had a brief moment of panic and forgot that I'd already was in the middle of a deal for Tormin. But again, it counts as homegrown, English, 3.5-star current ability, slight ability to grow, perhaps 16k on the higher end of the rotation wage, in my opinion. But again, good physically, mentals are all right. Physicals, 15 technique, passing's not amazing, but first touch and dribbling, 15, crossing's not amazing. Probably more of an inside forward option, as you can see here. Very strong right foot, but left foot's reasonable, right foot's very strong, so he's actually an inside forward option more than anything on that side. I forgot about Tormin when I was bringing him in, so might be a mistake. And probably there's going to be a bit of a situation with left, because you can see here a fourth name. But first, Amin Guri, a player that is probably well known by pretty much anyone who plays either FIFA or Football Manager for recent years as a player who tends to develop. Got him in on loan, paying a reasonable amount in fairness for him to have him on loan. But 15 finishing, 14 first touch, 14 dribbling, reasonable physicals, natural fitness pretty great, reasonable mentals, actually very good mentals overall, particularly for a young player. Very good technicals without. Essentially, he's very good without being outstanding in any area just yet. But very good option. You can sort of see the situation here. There's another player I'm going to talk about later on, but with Saramago going and sort of the replacements being temporary options the tail end of last season, gave us an opportunity to strengthen that striker role for the Premier League this time round. We just didn't have anyone really other than Ruiz at a reasonable Premier League standard, I guess. Will Keane is very much a backup in this situation. He's nowhere near Premier League quality, but will be around. And then there's Josh Bowler, who we have permanently now. He had, I think, about a year left on his contract, but we got him for about 325k. I forgot to mention actually prices. I've actually completely skipped someone and I will go back to him shortly. But 325k we bought him in, which is actually really good for English talent from a Premier League squad. 3-star, 4-star maybe. Brought in again as a backup option. Can play both sides as we know. Although from last year's experience, he's not very good on the right hand side. But he did develop well enough for that to become a good option. He's actually stronger on his left hand foot, so he should realistically be a very good inside forward on that side. But of course also a very good left winger on this side. Too, but yeah, similar situation to all the other left wingers we have right now. There's a reason why they're all very tightly packed here. And of course, when I did this, I kind of underestimated how well Brais Lopez has actually developed as a player. Despite these 3 players we brought in, he was promised first team. This might become the problem. At the same time, we bought him for 325,000 and his value is immediately off the bat 2.2. Regardless of what happens here, this could just be a financial benefit to us. We could probably sell him for a reasonable amount at some point, but he is English and he can play both sides. Now the right hand side is obviously slightly more problematic at this point because all 3 of these players we brought in so far are more dominant on the left. Realistically, Chris Willock we could probably develop on the right because he is more right-footed and we could have him as more of the backup for the right-hand side as a winger, opposed to being left-hand side inside forward. But Josh Brolin, we know the stats pretty much from last round. Reasonable physicals, actually very good physicals, reasonable, good to very good mentals, and reasonable technicals, apart from dribbling, which of course is excellent. And just to go back to Portugal again, we went back to Portugal again because my first aims here were strengthen the back and strengthen the front, because we already had a reasonable midfield possibly for the Premier League. And the two things you want to get as soon as you get promoted to a higher division is goal scoring talent for that division and defensive talent for that division. Between those 2 points, okay, you could probably make do. I like the fact his personality's model situation, by the way. He's brought in as a rotation, but is actually better, our best option. Physicals, very good. 18, very good physicals. Mentals, again, good to very good. Technicals, not amazing in the tackling, but his marking is 16 and his headings, yeah. He is 6'5" though, so he does have excellent jumping reach to counterbalance that. But 3.5 star now, 5 potentially superb 5-star rating. And in terms of pros and cons, pros very much outweigh the cons, and he's apparently currently operating at a Premier League division level, which is pretty good. And we only got him for £9,000. Considering he is probably going to be starting, that's pretty good. That £9,000 a week. We did buy him for 1.3 million, and he's valued slightly less than that in our squad. But I will take it. It was a release clause for a player of that quality. We kind of got it. Now there was another one we were looking at and didn't get. Talking about strengthening the very front and the very back, Milinkovic-Savic was, of course, not that Milinkovic-Savic, but Milinkovic-Savic was meant to be the replacement for Golovic on a sort of a similar level to Golovic, maybe slightly better, which would be fine if we were still in the Championship. Both of Stokes and Fulham's goalkeepers were disgruntled about being relegated, and they were worth about the same. They were both sort of going for about 6.5 million was the estimate for my scouting. So I thought, let's not faff about and go under. I kind of gave them 5 million up front with 1.5 over time, and they said, yeah, that's fine for this. Now, of course, goalkeepers are generally undervalued in this game. I mean, first of all, I'm going to compare this to Milinkovic-Savic right now, and you can already see the upgrade. Street speaking, only marginally better on the mentals, 2 points better on average on technicals, and 2 points on average better on the physicals. Already, you can see the reason why we paid out the cash for this guy. And he's on £30,000 a week. He's a key player for a reason. And this is that reason. Command 15, eccentricity. Actually, I don't like the fact that eccentricity is that high. But handling's 13, not that much better. But kicking 16, one-on-one's great. Passing, decent. Sweeper keeper. Reflexes 16, rushing 18, tendency to punch. Don't really like the tendency to punch being that high either, actually. But throwing, aerial reach is 14. His aerial reach is naturally worse because he's only 6 foot. But his agility is 16 though, so it kind of counterbalances that well a little bit faster as well. Better stamina, although that doesn't really matter for a goalkeeper. Premier League quality goalkeeper, needed really. And then this one happened, completely forgetting about this one. Yeah, we got Lewis Gibson back in on loan, and kind of forgot about the fact we already had Zagreb on loan. Yeah, he's technically better than Zagreb. Kind of has a slightly different offering though. In a way, he's a much better fullback than he is actually wingback. Better physicals. He's 6'4", so his heading's actually pretty good. His tackling's not great, but his marking's better. So it's almost like the reverse, I think, of Zagreb in that situation. His mentals are fairly good as well, and his decisions are pretty decent. But he's not that great on the getting forward side of things, the dribbling, the crossing side of things. So kind of a more defensive option than Zagreb. Now, there's a third name here who I am actually just going to have to quickly deal with because he's next on the list. He's cost us a fair amount. Of course, English talent from English leagues does have its own premium on, but he is actually worth more than we paid for him, to be fair. And this is the reason why you've seen him in pretty much every comparison page. He even has the tiniest of opportunity to play striker. Looking at this, not really. Probably like League 2 striker-wise, but left back was the reason I brought him in because, again, he's one of these players that probably would have benefited from before the upgrade on the colours. 14 here, 14s here, lots of 13s in fairness. 14 here in the passing, of course, and lots of a couple more 13s in this one. Crossing's 15 though. He's very much a more forward option as well than, say, Gibson. And slightly better overall. His marking's not amazing and his tackling's not amazing, but so we have more complete wing back option. But he can also play left wing and centre midfield reasonably well. He's actually, strictly speaking, one of our better central midfielders, which is really weird and annoying. And then, of course, Eric Garcia, we all know and love, but I've not really shown him as a page. And I love the fact club trained at is now Bradford. Strictly speaking, he's not homegrown club yet for some reason. I think the injury he took last season might have affected that. He's now going to become homegrown club for us in January. Now, his actual contract, which it shows here now on this updated skin, which I quite like, it doesn't show you the loan situation. His actual contract is till 2024, unfortunately, with Man City. So we can't get him in permanently yet. But tackling 16, marking 12, very good physicals, very good mentals, actually. He's only 20, let's not forget. And we've had him for 3 years in a row. He's actually brought in on a rotation basis this time around because I was hoping to get another centre defender in, but we had issues with... I had an issue with work permits with the guy. I'm going to keep an eye on that player, see if he gets any sort of international experience that might get him on through the initial work permit application rather than relying on the appeal, because he's not going to get the appeal unless we pay him a ridiculous amount of money. Rodrigo Tarin was basically then the backup in that situation because we couldn't land this Colombian player. I basically said, right, we'll get Garcia in again, and they can be our sort of first two choices. The Kyrgios can be the rotation because he's developing reasonably well, and then we sort of get Tarin as a sort of optional backup option. He's coming as a backup. He's not excellent in any area, but he's basically very good in everything. It's all light blue in the areas that matter for a central defender. That's why he's here. He cost me £200,000. He's on £11,000 a week as a backup. He's on the lower end of our upgraded wage structure and didn't cost me a lot. And he's very much a backup. You can see here he's gone onto the same par as Simone Grippo and Anthony O'Connor. So this is the kind of the reason there for that. Now, Jamie Dunk was a player I mentioned last time round when I was talking about Lewis Dunk. I couldn't remember what his first name was at the time. He hopefully has potential. That might be a name to keep an eye on going forward because he, with Kyrgios, could become our natural central defensive pairing if they both develop to the position where I think they might be able to. Of course, Ode Pereira is with us permanently as well. Garcia is obviously still just loan for the next 3 years potentially. And then we get to two more. Now, I'm just going to briefly mention this bottom player because I've had an absolute mare with him. He was brought in as right back option because at this stage we only really had Chad Lam and Egos Medina. Harrison Reed can play in right back, but we still only really had Chad Lam and Egos Medina. Neither of these are amazing. Now, Chad Lam will be our first choice regardless because he still has potential according to the he still has potential to grow into. So I figured if I just get another backup, that gives us a little bit more flexibility in case we get injuries in the Premier League. Now, I've had a bit of a mare with him because I signed him at the very end of deadline day after the initial registration happened, and he was the only player unregistered at the end of deadline day, and I just clicked auto select players to register, and it didn't actually register him. So I've gone through the final registration without actually registering this guy, which is a bit unfortunate. Now, again, I think he's a player that's been under star rated, to be honest, because he's very good physically still. He's 31, still very good physically, and very, very good mentally, really. Lots of yellow all over. 16 long throws was the interesting thing I liked to see on it. Shoots with power as well. Gets forward whenever possible. Opposition area. Runs with ball down right. Very much a wing-back option. But he's not registered. So he's going to have to go on loan till January, I think, until I get the next opportunity to register players. Oops. And then finally, kind of the big one, as you can see here, 7.75 million. Now, we had a bit of a transfer sango in terms of strikers. There was another option from the Argentina league, so he would have got through permits if we'd kind of gotten that far. But he wanted £63,000 a week, and our actual thing topped out at 50. So that didn't happen. Nor was I really, like I said, I was going to max out a 30 in terms of key players. I've actually managed to get him as only first team. As you can see here, in terms of star rating, he's on par with Ruiz. And whilst we do have Guri in, I wanted another permanent player in case obviously we take an injury to either of these two guys. Then at the very least, we've always got a better bench option than Will Keane. And I'll go on Ruiz in a second just to show him again. But finishing 16, first touch 13, heading 16. He's 6'4", decent amount of strength to him as well. 16 there, decent. Jumping reach 15. It's very much a poacher, target man kind of idea. His target man, I was expecting target man to be slightly more, very good complete forward as well. His dribbling's not amazing. He's very much more a player you get the ball to and he'll finish it off for you. Um, if you compare that to Ruiz, and I will just do that as a comparison, you can sort of see how they line up together. Now, actually, strictly speaking, I'm going to say it's Gijs Hendricks, just because IJ in, like, say, Van Dyke is pronounced Dyke, so I'm going to say it's Gijs. Gijs Hendricks compares to, actually, Ruiz actually is with us on a rotation contract, so he might not feel too bad about being second fiddle to Hendricks, at the very least at the start of the season. But you can sort of see here, Ruiz is very good with dribbling, finishing, and first touch, but not great with heading. He isn't, like, he's not short, he's 6 foot, but his heading's not amazing and his jumping reach isn't amazing either. Ruiz is sort of more of a speedier, get in around them kind of striker, a kind of more do-it-himself kind of striker in a way. His mental's slightly better with teamwork as well, whereas Hendricks is more of a team player, good passing, actually better penalty taking as well, but good passing and excellent heading and excellent free kick taking. One of his conditions for signing with us was that he must take free kicks, and with 14 free kick taking, yeah, he can. But you can sort of see they have similar finishing, 16, 15, but it kind of offers more to the team. Hendricks does, and slightly very different options in terms of that. They might actually work really well as a pair, but obviously our system is one striker at the moment. I might look into making them as a pair. Him as more sort of a target man, support, deep line player, and then Ruiz as the complete forward. I like the fact they're kind of similar quality in terms of star rating, but offer me different things. And yeah, that's the end of the end of all that. No idea how long I've just waffled on for, but I imagine it's far too long. And as I said, I'm going to start with 2 matches next time round, but there's probably just enough time for me to have a quick look at the the Premier League. And in terms of the Premier League, you can see the 3 promoted teams all somewhat cut adrift at the bottom of here, 950, 1,000, 1,000 to 1. So realistically, obviously this season, all we're aiming at is 17th. So all we're aiming at. And apparently they're twice as good as us. Our best 2 players are incidentally David Raya and Brais Lopez. As you see here, he's another player that I did apparently underrate when I was going through this, because I got so many players who can play left mid when he exists, and physically ridiculous. Mentally very good, all 14s. Actually, before the upgrade on this, pretty much all of his important stats were yellow. 14 on vision there, flair, determination, decision, bravery, all 14s. Corners and crossings, 14s. First touch, 14 as well. So he's an excellent winger, really, but not really that good on getting the goal. He did get into double digits for his last season, and look at the amount of pros he has. Techniques, 13 as well. Thankfully, he's not better at free kicks than our new Dutch striker. So yeah, despite spending about 20 million, we do have a little bit left for players that inevitably will come to me during the season and say, hey, can I have a slightly better contract now? Tex is likely going to be one of those, because he's only on about £6,000 a week as things stand. Now, of course, a lot of players got a Premier League wage hike, Ferreira being one of those, of course. I will just briefly run you through, Actually, I will just briefly run you through what likely is going to be the kind of starting 11. Now, Ruiz and Hendricks is very flexible. Either of those can go in that either way. But this is likely going to be the first 11 for us this season. Now, like I say, I'm going to kind of force Martin to be here. Martin, I imagine it's supposed to be pronounced with him being Spanish. But Lopez, Tex, Lam, Osborne, new face here. But as you can see here, it's kind of largely, backbone-wise, very similar. Lam, Tex, Lopez, Ruiz, Garcia, of course, and Ferreira, all being players that existed previously. And then in terms of the bench, you still got Dominguez around, Rossiter, Kyrgios. Much, Gribben and Gibson have all been injured in pre-season, so that's why they're not around here. So actually 3 players, of course, 2 players that we've had previously, Much, of course, still with us, and probably would be the one we would put in front of Reed here normally, but yeah, he's injured, which is why Rossiter actually even makes the bench for the time being, because Gribben was there before. But yeah, 2 games next time round. I'll bring you those in full. You can see there, I start things off against Newcastle, my actual supporting club. So Of course, it's the way it had to be. Get thrown in against the club I actually support in real life, so that's what. And then that's followed up by Tottenham away. I'll run you through how pre-season went as well next time round, but until then, thank you for watching. Ta-ra.